Hello guys, this is from Mrs. Abby coming to you again today with another wonderful video where I show you how I take care of my houseplants. And this beauty right here is in the Hedera Helix family. It is an ivy and it is called a Royal Hustler ivy. It is a very beautiful plant. In my last video, I think it was my last video, I uploaded how I take care of another Hedera Helix, which is in the another ivy plant, and it was the yellow ripple ivy. And this one here again is called the Royal Hustler ivy. The care that I give this one is similar to the care that I give the yellow ripple ivy because they're so similar. There are several ivy plants, and I have several that I take care of, and I love them. This plant right here is very easy to take care of, and it has simple care requirements, just like the yellow ripple ivy. But before I go into how I take care of this plant right here, would you do me a favor and please subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And please share it with your family and friends. So let's get into how I take care of this beauty right here. And the first care requirements I'm going to be telling you about is the light requirement. This plant here can thrive very well in medium light. Now, there are some people online that says they put theirs in a very bright location. But if you decide to put it in a bright location or a medium light location, you want to ensure that it never gets direct sunlight. I would not suggest to you to place this plant in low light at all. It loves sunlight, mostly medium, and can tolerate a brighter light area if it's indirect sunlight. But I would just say, to be safe, give it medium sunlight, but never put it close to a window where it's going to get direct sunlight. I like to filter my sunlight, whether it is bright or medium. I filter it by placing up sheer curtains or blinds, whereas I adjust the blinds so the sun will never directly hit any of my plants. So just remember that. And if you do that, you don't have to worry about the plant getting burned, the leaves getting burned. Another care is the temperature requirement. Just like the yellow ripple ivy, this plant can tolerate a temperature, inside temperature, because again, the ivies can be planted outside. Something I didn't tell you in the last video about that particular ivy is that it can grow a lot as far as if it's on the outside, just like this one. So you want to contain it, and you contain it by it becoming an inside plant. So you want to make sure that the temperature on the inside never go below, I would say, 55 degrees for this plant right here, or either below 60, and that it can stand a temperature all the way up into the 80s. Now, in my home, I place my thermostat on 75 year round. So all of my plants, no matter what type of plant it is receiving a temperature of around 75 degrees year round. And my plants love it. So let's talk about the humidity requirements for this ivy right here. This Royal Hustler ivy. It enjoys a lot of humidity, just like a lot of ivies. But like I said in the former video, my home does not consist of a lot of humidity, but my plants do well and the ivy is doing okay. Now, if you want to, you can add some humidity. I can add humidity in my home by boiling water. You can also buy a humidifier, which I do own. I'll occasionally place the humidifier in the room. I don't place the humidifier in there too often because some of my plants do not like humidity. So I don't want to destroy some plants trying to give other plants humidity. Also, I want to tell you about the toxicity level. The toxicity level for this plant is it is toxic to pets and humans and animals and children. So you want to make sure that you keep this plant here out of the reach of children. Make sure of that. Okay, the fertilizing requirement. Again, I never fertilize any of my indoors plants. And the reason why I don't fertilize them is because I'm not for sure they need to be fertilized, or I might give it too much fertilizer. A lot of people plant dyes because they don't know how much fertilizer to give it. So they go ahead and fertilize it because someone told them that that's what they're supposed to do without them literally understanding that your plant may or may not need fertilizer. Some plants really don't need to be fertilized, guys. So I decided that the way that I would get the proper nutrients to any of my plants is to do a soil refresh. That is easy to do. You take this plant here, you remove some of the soil, and once you remove some of it from the top, you add some fresh new soil. Now hopefully that soil that you're using contains ingredients that has the proper nutrient like some fertilizer in it. You add it on the top of the soil, and once you do that, you water it, and you try to refresh it before you water it. So once you water it, all the fertilizer that's in the new soil will get all over the old soil that's still in the pot, and it will reach the roots, and your plant should be okay. As far as pests are concerned, I've never experienced any pests for this particular plant right here. Next, I'm going to talk about the water requirement, and I'm also going to show you how I water it. I use just regular tap water. That tap water seems to be fine as far as this plant is concerned. I just use water from my sink like this right here. That's all I do. Now, since it's so cold in certain places or it's cooler temperatures, you want to make sure that this water that comes from the sink is not too cold. So what I do, I already have my water in this right here, and I'm allowing it to sit for a while so it can become room temperature water. So before you water, you're going to need some saucers or some bowl to catch the water. And if you use the sink, you probably won't need those two right there. You just can use the sink, and it'll drain in the sink. And of course, you're gonna need a watering can and some water, or you can just simply use the water straight from the faucet if you don't have a watering can. So let's get started watering this. So before you start to water any of your plants, in particular the ivy, in particular this ivy, which is a royal hustler ivy, you want to make sure that it needs to be watered. Now, there's two testing methods that I use. One is I use the soil method, where I fill into the soil down about 2 inches, and if it feels dry, I know that it needs to be watered. Now, if it's a larger plant, like by 8 or 10 inches or more, then you can't use the finger soil test, because that's a possibility that the soil can be dry on top, and then by the time it gets that low, in a 10-inch pot, it is still sort of damp. So you don't want to use that. If you have a large pot, you might want to use the second method or test that I use, which is the lift test. You lift up the plant. If it feels light, then it probably needs to be watered. If it feels sort of heavy, then you probably don't need to water it. So with this one here being as small as it is, I can simply just use the field test. But I still like to use the lift test as well, just to be sure that the plant needs to be watered. So I'm going to take this plant right here and I'm going to set the saucer in the sink. And then I'm going to take the plant and sit it in the sink also. And like I said, I'm going to be using room temperature water. And I've already placed the water in the watering can. And I'm going to start watering it. I want to make sure that I'm thoroughly watering it because this plant was very dry. Okay. Now, I'm going to water it until I know that the water starts to drain from all 4 or 5 of the drainage holes. And I'm going to water it again. So I want to thoroughly water this plant. Thoroughly. So it gets on all the soil. Okay. I'm going to allow it to sit in the water just a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes. So the roots can really get saturated with the water. And then I'm going to drain it. So it will continue to sit in the water for a couple of more seconds so the roots can be saturated with water. And then I'm going to drain it. I'm going to take it and put it in this particular saucer so it can drain. Or I can just, I'm going to show you how I put it into the sink and let it drain from there in a little while. It's not really drinking the water from the bottom because I watered it from the top. Now, you can also water this from the bottom, which is something I do sometime with this plant. And let me take this out right here because you want to make sure that you clean out all the debris from it too, like this right here. So. Okay, I think it's ready to drain. Now I'm going to show you how you can just see all the water coming from the bottom. You want to drain it. See, you see the drain right there? You can literally put it in the drain and let it drain there if you like. If you're at the sink, you can do that because this is a smaller pot. So because it's smaller, you can put it into the drain and let it drain. Or you can just use the empty saucer right here and you can let it sit for a while and let it drain there. And when I do that, I always lift it and tilt it so most of the water can come from the drainage hole. And I continue to do this until I think there's no more water coming from the drainage holes. You don't ever want your plants to be soggy, wet. You want to make sure that each plant in your home is drained very well. You don't want your plant to get root rot. So you want to pour this off and you want to sit it down for a little while longer and you want to let it drain some more. Once you let it sit there for a while, you want to take it again and tilt it and let the water come out that way. Let it drain. We're going to put it back as long as it don't have a lot of water in the bottom. And you want to continue to do that for as long as it takes. Let it do it again. And you want to let it drain this away until there's no more water dripping. No more. So you want to do this 5, 6, 7 times. I do all my plants like this. And I know you guys thinking it takes a long time, but it really doesn't. It's taking longer on the tape because I am recording this. But if I didn't want to record it for you guys, I could have been already finished with this. So I'm going to set it down some more, let it drain some more. Pull that up. Set it in here some more. And then I'm going to let it drain again. Okay, now let's talk a little about how you clean the leaves like that drain. You can clean the leaves because these leaves here needs to be cleaned. You can clean the leaves by using a wet paper towel and just dabbing it. Yeah, you just take a paper towel and just dab the leaves, or you can just sit it in a sink, sit it in a shower, and give it a bath, only when it needs to be watered. And that's how you can keep the leaves clean. It's time for me to clean all the leaves in my house. So I will be doing that as soon as the weather gets a little better. Okay guys, I think this is all they need. Let's see if anything dripping from it. A little more just dripping. See, it is barely dripping, and I think that this plant is okay. It doesn't need to be drained anymore. So that's it guys for taking care of the Royal Hustler Ivy, which is in the Hedera Helix family, and it's another beautiful plant. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.